Day 845 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 528,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,230 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 16 tanks, 20 APVs, and 32 artillery. Then taking another occasional look at the area of control bar chart, as Russia occupies 18.09% of Ukraine, noting that figure includes Crimea and the Donbass. And also bearing in mind, Putin's recent peace deal included within it Russia taking the rest of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk. Therefore, no ceding of land, or even looking to keep the land where the lines are currently drawn. But instead, Putin has requested an extra 5 or 10% of Ukrainian lands, and yet that's not a peace negotiation, that's terms of surrender. Ukraine was never going to go for that. Then headed to the map, because early this morning, at least a handful of Ukrainian attack drones hit the Russian fuel storage terminal in the port city of Azov, in the Rostov Oblast, causing a severe blaze reaching over 10 stories and an area of 5,000 square meters. Then another oil depot in the Temruk district of the Krasnodar territory, as the attacked site, a terminal for liquid petroleum and chemical cargoes, had reportedly caught fire, damaging the pipeline and technical premises. Now, Russian sources believe that some of these attacks have been carried out by Ukrainian Neptune missiles, although we have no word on that at this stage. Then right next door, as a Ukrainian air raid targeted Crimea today, with a fire reported at Simferopol, as multiple warnings were issued by Russian authorities in response to potential threats from Ukrainian drones and missiles. Plus, it's also been stated that Yevpatoria has been experiencing attacks by maritime drones, with also explosions reported at the Sevastopol Bay. But we're yet to come across any further information on that. Then headed across to the Ukrainian map today, slightly shorter video on the map front, but we're continuing to hear about a number of successful Ukrainian airstrikes on Russian positions in the Vovchansk sector. And usually hearing about it from the Russian units, with one such unit stating that the French provided hammers as posing a serious problem for them. But where things have been reported for a potential heat-up is in the direction of Borova, where Russian forces have reportedly built up significant military strength to attack, as it's been stated that Russia has amassed approximately 10,000 personnel and 450 pieces of heavy equipment into the area. But interestingly, Russia also tried to attack in this area last year, although at some point they halted operations without achieving any real success. Then moving further south on the map on the topic of airstrikes, but those performed by Russia, as they are mostly and somewhat consistently launching these on frontline positions such as Chasiv Yar and Osheritino, and the locations in between, and doing so on the map almost exclusively, with the exception of the Dnipro River or Kherson North Bank, and in the north at the Kharkiv section. Which is why Ukraine is specifically targeting airfield after airfield within Russia at the moment to put a bludgeoning on their attempts to actually carry out those airstrikes in meaningful numbers. And then here in the east, a recent Russian recording was appearing to show off their supply roads with anti-drone nets installed in a makeshift manner. Though this presents a few challenges at least. For instance, a single and fairly precise 155mm shell, like that of the Swedish Archer artillery platform that's known for its uncanny precision, would tear right through something like this. Or even, how about a drone or two? No different to a couple of drones hitting a tank. First one makes an opening run, the second one comes in to finish it off. Or, since the passageway appears so short, at about 30 meters or 100 feet, an FPV drone could either go through the belly of the beast, or just wait on the other side. But more importantly to ask, is Russia setting up predetermined travel points now? So with such a short passageway that offers no discernible advantage, then you have to ask yourself the following: that if the Russian army is walking on eggshells like this, then maybe it's time to go home. Then headed across to some news for today. So the commander of Ukraine's military intelligence group 13, who are responsible for leading operations that involve advanced technology, particularly regarding naval drones, recently disclosed that the Migura 5 or Migura V5 unmanned surface vehicle can now be equipped with R-73 air-to-air guided missiles. These missiles, typically used by aircraft such as the MiG-29 or Su-34, represent a significant advancement in the capabilities of the Migura V5. Just previously, we saw Ukrainian naval drones firing off salvos of unguided rockets. Then we saw one other instance of what was suspected to be this very R-73 guided missile, which has now been confirmed. So the ability to engage aerial targets with precision from sea is a very innovative approach from the AFU as they work to set up different naval drones with different mission profiles. Then headed to something of a Russian hardware news update, as Moscow has stated that as a result of an incident back in February, one of their Russian A-50 early warning and control aircraft was shot down by the Ukrainian Air Force over the Sea of Azov. As a result of this latest announcement, the Russian Investigative Committee has issued an arrest warrant in absentia for the commander of the Ukrainian Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade, making them responsible for the downing. But that won't make much of a difference. So the A-50 AWACS plane, valued at approximately $350 million, plays a critical role in detecting air defense systems, guiding missiles, and coordinating targets for Russian fighter jets. Initially, at the time of downing, multiple Russian sources called the event a friendly fire incident because they couldn't handle the alternative case whereby Ukraine was capable of performing such a feat of destroying an A-50 plane. But in total now, Russia has, or had, 9 of these very strategically important aircraft, with 2 destroyed and 1 severely damaged earlier this year, with the remainder of these dilapidated planes, which were mostly used for spare parts, where production ceased over 30 years ago. But as of now, it's estimated that Russia maybe has 1 or 2 operational, big maybe if they're lucky, and we haven't heard much about any operating ever since those events earlier this year. Then to some more news, Russian President Vladimir Putin has once again reshuffled his defense ministry, appointing his niece, 52-year-old billionaire Anna Sivileva, as deputy defense minister, noting that she was formerly known as Anna Putina, as Russia follows the tradition of using gender-specific forms for surnames. In addition to Anna, Pavel Fradkov, the youngest son of a former Russian prime minister, has also been appointed as deputy defense minister. So this latest shakeup in the Russian Defense Ministry, which saw the dismissal of 4 deputy defense ministers, continues to underscore the significant influence of family and strategic ties within the Russian government. You see, autocracies often prioritize loyalty over merit when selecting ministers and other high-ranking officials, with the impact or fallout being reduced competence, corruption and cronyism. It stifles innovation and many other downsides, making for a systematically flawed environment that amounts to us seeing things like rusty old T-55 and T-62 tanks in this war. Then headed across to another Russian military mobilization blunder segment today, as we see with this one, just a couple of men in an otherwise sea of mothers, wives, sisters and daughters, as this group makes an appeal to that famous guy that people always seem to be making appeals to in Russia, who goes by the name of Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. So their appeal, along with other branches of government that they appeal to, mention that they are the families from the mobilized soldiers who, as they advise, have been fulfilling combat tasks honorably for 2 years. But now, those same soldiers are said to be in a difficult situation as they're constantly being sent to storm strategic positions, even though they're just ordinary office workers. Now, this group says that their mobilized relatives have been moved to under the command of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. And by the way, you do not want to go under the command of the DPR. Horrible conditions, no accountability from command. It's just a horror film of circumstances. And as a part of this latest blunder, apparently the soldiers have been listed as contractors, but never signed any contracts. Which, by the way, is another great way for the Russian MOD to cook the books so far as their own KIA numbers are concerned, which they significantly underreport anyway. Also in this video, we hear about the classic Russian situation whereby these soldiers were meant to only be involved with the territorial defense forces, but now find themselves knee-deep in Donbass trenches taking a hit. So this small rally diplomatically quotes articles of the Russian constitution regarding rights and freedom in the hope that Putin will receive this email and come to their rescue. Although, no surprises, Putin isn't coming to the rescue here. And if anything, he or the Russian MOD is constantly hatching up plans to enlist more Russians into this botched invasion. Then headed across to a couple of funnies to round it all off for today, guys. So first up, another oddity of a moment by Belarusian President Lukashenko, as he recently announced that 30 people were brought to justice within his country, then goes on to list out the names of the people, but then he just feels like saying the following, quote, "Sorry, I'm not anti-Semitic, but more than half of them are Jews." So, okay, great. Then just don't mention it. Haha, crazy Uncle Luca never ceases in his ability to go on another splendid rant. Then headed across to a final funny to round it all off today, guys. So, has anyone ever heard of the BRICS Games? They're kind of like the Summer Olympics, except without all of that prestige. And in fact, many people within the member nations of Russia, China, Brazil, India, and South Africa haven't even heard of the games. And guess who won last year? That's right, Russia! But what's even crazier is that this year's event, happening right now, held in Russia's Kazan region, which is closer to Siberia than it is to Moscow, where we saw a very unusual event within the men's 1500 meter freestyle event, because although a Russian athlete won first place, he wasn't actually competing with anyone else in the race. All reportedly due to the country facing challenges in securing participation from international athletes in certain competitions due to the invasion of Ukraine. A boycott. That's embarrassing. But moreover, can you even trust these games? That is to say, the participating countries. It's like a cohort of cheating nations, not all, but definitely some, who are looking to give themselves that special edge. It's not just sports, it's a masterclass in competitive cheating. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. A continued thanks for all of your support, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, write a comment, and I hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!